Bed is strong, backed by a lifetime warranty, and ships directly to your door. Setup only takes 5 minutes, no tools needed. To get $100 towards the classic bed, go to thuma.co. That's THUMA.co to receive $100 off your purchase of the classic bed. Shop the classic bed at thuma.co.
You're listening to Judge. D.C. Police Chief remains in command, but Trump can likely demand help on immigration. A news story written by Megan Flynn, Salvador Rizzo, Jeremy Roebuck, and Olivia George, and read by an AI-generated voice. A federal judge convinced the Justice Department to walk back President Donald Trump's efforts to assert control over the D.C. Police Department, and signaled that she would issue a temporary restraining order if the changes are not complete by Friday evening. After hearing arguments on an emergency request from D.C. officials to block the Trump administration's takeover of the 100-member Metropolitan Police Department, U.S. District Judge Anna C. Reyes forged a compromise of sorts between the two sides, without issuing a ruling on the key question of who runs the police department. But the court did not rule on another key aspect of the case: whether Trump can commandeer D.C. police officers to enforce immigration violations. That issue is likely to be resolved next week, Reyes said. In an order issued late Thursday that caught district officials including Mayor Muriel E. Bowser, Democrat, and the police chief by surprise, U.S. Attorney General Pam Bondi installed the top official in the Drug Enforcement Administration as the head of the police department, while rescinding local police policies limiting cooperation with immigration enforcement. D.C. Attorney Brian Schwalb said the federal actions represented the gravest threat to home rule that the district has ever faced. He filed a lawsuit Friday asking a federal judge to find that Trump and Bondi's actions are unconstitutional and exceed limits on federal power in the 1973 D.C. Home Rule Act. At the end of Friday's hearing, Justice Department Attorney Yakov Roth said the administration would agree to change a key section of Bondi's order that named the DEA chief, Terry Cole, as the commissioner of the D.C. Police. "We're just going to say Mr. Cole is the designee of the Attorney General for the purposes of requesting services from D.C. Police," Roth told the judge at the hearing's conclusion. "He's going to have to go through the mayor, all right?" Reyes responded. "If the order is not changed by 6:30 p.m., the judge said, she would issue a temporary restraining order blocking Cole from taking charge." The lawsuit sets up a major power clash in entirely untested territory as the district clings to its limited self-governance. It is the starkest illustration in 3 decades of the vast power that the federal government retains over the nation's capital. The very law that gave D.C. the right to an elected local government also includes a provision allowing the president to direct the D.C. mayor to provide police services for federal purposes if the president declares an emergency, the provision Trump triggered on Monday. By declaring a hostile takeover of MPD, the administration is abusing its limited temporary authority under the Home Rule Act, infringing on the district's right to self-governance and putting the safety of D.C. residents and visitors at risk, Schwalb said in a statement. The administration's unlawful actions are an affront to the dignity and autonomy of the 700,000 Americans who call D.C. home, and we are fighting to stop it. Smith said in a sworn declaration in U.S. District Court on Friday that Bondi's attempt to strip away her authority represented one of the most dangerous directives she had ever seen. If effectuated, the Bondi order would upend the command structure of MPD, endangering the safety of the public and law enforcement officers alike, Smith's declaration said. "In my nearly 3 decades in law enforcement, I have never seen a single government action that would cause a greater threat to law and order than this dangerous directive." After Bondi issued her order Thursday, Schwalb and Bowser immediately suggested that the city would not comply, and Schwalb told Smith to continue operating as the chief, the first significant sign of resistance from the city's top officials since Trump exerted control over the police force Monday. In the lawsuit, Schwalb called Bondi's orders a brazen usurpation of the district's authority over its own government. Schwalb argues the provision in the D.C. Home Rule Act gives the president limited authority and does not allow a federal official to seize total control of the department and upend its policies. He also argued that given police data shows crime declining versus rising, there was no basis in law for Trump to declare a crime emergency. These unlawful assertions of authority will create immediate, devastating, and irreparable harms for the district, the lawsuit states. Most critically, the order threatens to upend the command structure of MPD and wreak operational havoc within the department, endangering the safety of the public and law enforcement officers alike. There is no greater risk to public safety in a large, professional law enforcement organization like MPD than to not know who is in command. When asked by a reporter late Thursday who was in charge of D.C. police, an agency spokesperson did not directly address the question or others, but said in an email early Friday morning, "We understand there may be questions about recent decisions regarding the Metropolitan Police Department. What's most important for our community to know is that MPD remains committed to delivering high-quality police service and ensuring the safety of everyone in our city." Cole attended the 1st Police District evening roll call and, according to the union, told officers that the chain of command is still in place and to follow their lawful orders, according to a post on X by the D.C. Police Union. Bondi's order was the first set of explicit directives issued to Bowser and Smith, after the two spent days insisting that they retained control of the police department and that the arrangement with the Trump administration was more of a collaborative partnership. The directive appeared designed to put to rest questions about who was at the top of the chain of command. It came just hours after Smith showed an openness to offering greater cooperation with immigration and customs enforcement in an executive order of her own, again underscoring the limits of the Bowser administration's attempt to balance cooperating with the Trump administration while retaining the city's liberal values and policies. Trump on Monday nominated Cole to oversee the police department. But while federal agents surged and unarmed National Guard troops deployed onto city streets, there initially weren't any other explicit written directives, and officials said the department was operating as normal. Smith said on Fox 5 Wednesday that she saw the federal operation, an enhanced presence, as a boost for crime-fighting efforts that is going to impact us in a positive way. But the Trump administration's ramp-up of federal agents on city streets, including federal immigration authorities, has had residents increasingly on edge. Some onlookers protested a federal checkpoint on a busy corridor Wednesday night, warning motorists of ICE agents and yelling at officers. Several lawmakers said Thursday that the time had come to forcefully push back, particularly after Smith on Thursday morning in her new executive order sought to expand cooperation with ICE. Smith's order allowed officers to share information with ICE about people D.C. police stopped but did not arrest, and also allowed them to help ICE to transport detainees, a move that outraged a number of D.C. council members. "That's a huge betrayal of our values as D.C. residents," D.C. council member Janice Lewis George, D. Ward 4, said in an interview. Smith's order retained restrictions on helping ICE with immigration arrests or inquiring about people's immigration status while in their custody, limitations that reflect D.C. law. But by Thursday night, Bondi rescinded Smith's new order and suspended the existing D.C. police policies that had placed guardrails on cooperation with ICE, a dramatic policy shift in a deep blue district that, during Trump's first term, the mayor proudly called a sanctuary city. Trump has repeatedly targeted Democratic cities with sanctuary city laws that restrict or prohibit local law enforcement from aiding immigration authorities. He said of D.C. on Monday that this city will no longer be a sanctuary for illegal alien criminals. We will have full, seamless, integrated cooperation at all levels of law enforcement and will deploy officers across the district with an overwhelming presence. The Justice Department said Bondi believed Smith's order would allow D.C. to continue with some of its sanctuary city policies. In the order she issued Thursday night, Bondi rescinded Smith's 2024 order limiting police inquiries into the immigration status of residents and one from 2023 that police from making solely for immigration violations. D.C. will not remain a sanctuary city actively shielding criminal aliens. It will, Bondi told Fox News in an interview Thursday evening. You must information to our ICE, Homeland Security officers. If they have information on an illegal living in D.C., they must get information. ICE directs D.C. to enforce local laws involving unlawful occupancy of public space to the maximum extent possible, appearing in line with Trump's desire to clear homeless encampments. Smith said in her sworn declaration that this order also had implications for policing public demonstrations, and she worried that Bondi's directive could divert police resources away from fighting crime to enforce laws. Multiple D.C. lawmakers immediately condemned Bondi's order Thursday night. This order is a patently unlawful power grab that represents a break-the-glass moment for our democracy. It cannot and will not stand, Council Member Zachary Parker, D. Ward 5, said in a statement. Like Trump's asserted takeover of the D.C. Police Department, Bondi's order has no modern precedent. The Home Rule Act says that the president may direct the mayor to provide police services for federal purposes, and that the mayor shall provide them to him after declaring special conditions of an emergency exist. But the emergency can only last a maximum of 30 days, unless the president can secure approval from Congress extending the emergency, which Trump says he intends to seek. In part because the law is untested, confusion reigned in the immediate aftermath of Trump's executive action about the chain of command at the D.C. Police Department. D.C. officials have interpreted the Home Rule Act to mean that they are providing law enforcement services to the president while retaining ownership of the department, not surrendering total control. The provision is titled Emergency Control of Police, and the White House made clear Tuesday they saw the president as the one in control. In his executive order, he delegated his authority to Bondi. Schwab said in the lawsuit that the president's assertion of total control and Bondi's attempt to rewrite department policy are entirely outside of the bounds of temporarily using local law enforcement for a federal purpose. He also argued that the actions violated the District Clause of the Constitution, which gives Congress the ultimate authority and oversight of the nation's capital and its laws, and that Congress's Home Rule Act intended to narrowly limit the president's authority and gave the mayor authority over the police department. D.C.'s law-limiting cooperation with ICE, known as the Sanctuary Values Amendment Act of 2020, has recently drawn attention from Congress. Earlier this year, the Republican-controlled House voted to nullify D.C.'s sanctuary city law and mandate full cooperation with the federal authorities, part of a steady drumbeat of bills GOP lawmakers have taken up that intervene in D.C. policy. The bill's chances are unclear in the Senate, where the filibuster would require support from Democrats. But if Bondi's order were carried out, it would achieve the same end. Representative Andrew Ogles, Republican Tennessee, introduced a resolution to amend the Home Rule Act to allow Trump to extend the emergency indefinitely, while House and Senate Democrats announced a joint resolution of their own seeking to terminate Trump's emergency and executive action, likening it to an authoritarian power grab. Each would face difficulties in Congress given Republicans control the House, and the Senate filibuster, which typically applies to joint resolutions, requires support of Democrats. Salvador Rizzo, Derek Hawkins, and Emma Uber contributed to this report.